Welcome to Ninerology. I'm your host, Alan, and we're here to talk about the 49ers' first preseason game. It's now been wrapped up. They lost a nail-biter 17-13 against the Tennessee Titans, and it ended up going up to the last play of the game with a Hail Mary by Joshua Dobbs that was underthrown, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about some of the players that stood out, that made a name for themselves, maybe some players that were on the bubble that may end up sticking around. And let's start off first off with none other than Jordan Mason, who many have wanted to be the number 2 running back for quite a while just because of how he runs the ball. He seems to be one of the most consistent running backs, even though he's always been number 3 or 4 on the depth chart. And I think this year he's really separated himself and essentially entrenched himself as the number 2 running back. Elijah Mitchell, while great, he's not always healthy, and we all know the best ability is availability. And Jordan Mason gives you that, and he runs the ball angry. And that's a great change of pace from Christian McCaffrey. Last year, he averaged 5.6 yards a carry. This year, he picked up right where he left off. He's averaging 5.7 in his single drive. He had 6 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. That's everything you want to see. He ran with vision. He pounded the ball hard. He didn't just fall down. He got that extra hit, that extra 1 to 2 yards, which is really what you need from Jordan Mason. That's the kind of running back that's going to go ahead and win the ball games in the fourth quarter. So love what I saw from Jordan Mason. Another thing we want to hear from Kyle Shanahan is Clay Kubiak was calling the plays on the offense. Is this something that we're going to see during the regular season? Was it just to give Clay some experience? Is Kyle Shanahan wanting to step back and take more of that kind of CEO position to where he can be a better coach across both sides, which could be an interesting thing. Who knows? We'll see what happens there. But another key area is it seems to be the 49ers' biggest Achilles heel, and that is their special teams. You figured, hey, maybe with the new kickoff rules, maybe the 49ers will finally have some luck on their side. No, absolutely not. The very first time, you almost have a run back at the very beginning. I don't know what it is about the 49ers special teams, going all the way back to Kyle Williams, back to this past Super Bowl with the muffed punt. The 49ers' Achilles heel always seems to be their special teams, and that's something they really got to figure out. I don't know what it is, but Kyle Shanahan, we need to work on that special teams. Another thing that we noticed, let's talk about some more good, and we'll talk about some more improvements. Good, Renardo Green. Renardo Green seems to be really stepping it up at that corner position, and who knows, he could be in competition, direct competition for that third cornerback nickel spot. He looked phenomenal. We've heard he's had a great camp. It took him about the first 3 to 4 training camp practices to really get his feet under him, but he looked great today. He had a fumble recovery as well. And then how about Malik Mustafa, or Malik Mustafa, however you pronounce his first name? Talk about that 4th down stop right at the goal line. Phenomenal stop. In fact, Kyle Shanahan challenged the play because the refs initially called it a first down. But no, we saw that tenacity and that huge play that changed that momentum. And that's something that you need for rookies. So that way they can start believing in themselves and the skill that they bring. I'd love to see that. Now let's talk a little bit more about some of the negatives that we saw. We already mentioned the terrible special team, but how about Colton McKivitz? What is going on there? Starting off with a false start. Like, you already know that fans are calling for your head. You would have hoped that you would work on these pre-snap penalties, but obviously that's not the case. Something needs to happen there. I don't know if a trade needs to happen or he just needs to get whipped into shape. That's another thing. Ambry Thomas, I'd be surprised if he makes it to the next preseason game. Talk about multiple holding calls. Several missed tackles. It just seems to me that he is somebody that's ready to walk the plank when it comes to the roster. I don't see him making the end of the roster, so the 49ers should just do him a favor, cut him now, and see if he can get on to another team. Also, another Achilles heel in addition to special teams is mobile quarterbacks. Mobile quarterbacks seem to still be a struggle for the 49ers. Now, I know it's just the first preseason game. We want to see what can... who knows? What can the defense do? We have a new defense coordinator. We also brought in a few different people to help with that brain trust, and I haven't seen anything yet. Have you? So the reality is this game showed that with Malik Willis, that he was able to run the ball on the perimeters against the 49ers defense. And that's something to be, that we need to keep our eyes on, because Who do the 49ers end up playing in the AFC if they make it to the Super Bowl? Typically running quarterbacks. You have Patrick Mahomes, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Josh Allen. A lot of these guys are running quarterbacks that if the 49ers make it to the Super Bowl again, they're going to have to play against that. And they need to figure out this Achilles heel and what's going on there. Another key standouts, we saw a revival of Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor, that's a name we haven't heard in a few years, was re-signed in the offseason as another camp body, but he actually played really well. I wouldn't put him back there for kick returns. Yes, he'll be dependable. He probably won't fumble the ball, but don't expect any game-breaking plays from him. But he can be dependable. We saw that in the receiving end. And T. Martin did show a lot. I was hoping to see more from Ronnie Bell, but he seemed to have gotten a little nicked up after 2 catches. He had one big opportunity for a catch, and that didn't end up happening. So I want to keep an eye out on Tate Martin to see kind of what happens there. And then you have the backup quarterback competition between Joshua Dobbs and Brandon Allen. Both quarterbacks played extremely well. Brandon Allen showed some great poise, hit some great openers down the seam, but also so did Joshua Dobbs. Joshua Dobbs started off a little shaky and started settling in. Now, granted, he's playing with linemen that are probably going to be bagging groceries in a few weeks, but he showed some great poise, was 14 for 20 for 146 yards. Yes, he had that interception at the Hail Mary. Brandon Allen was 7 for 13 for 98 yards. Both had big sacks. Josh Dobbs had that one sack for 15-yard loss. That was on a 4th down. Brandon Allen had that one that took off 10. But one thing that I saw between them was it looked like they were confident in the pocket. And there's no clear quarterback competition for number 1, which is great because you have Brock Purdy. But it looks like they're battling out for number 2, and it ended up today pretty even. So I think next week what's going to happen is you're going to have Brock Purdy probably start a series or so, and then Joshua Dobbs get the second team reps because Brandon Allen got him this year, or this specific game. And I think game 3 will decide who's going to be the number 2 quarterback behind Brock Purdy and who's potentially going to be the emergency quarterback. So we saw a lot from them. So all in all, great game. You would hope to come home with the W. It'll be interesting to hear about Clay Kubiak's reasoning for going for 2. If he went for the field goal, then guess what? All you need to do is kick a field goal to end the game to tie it to get to overtime. Chris Conley made a few big catches as well, picked up right where he left off. All in all, it looks like the 49ers came unscathed. There's a few other standouts. Let's talk about D. Winters. I know with Dre Greenlaw being out, still recovering from Achilles, the 49ers signed Devondre Campbell to step right in, but the more and more I see D. Winters play, it just seems like he has that extra gear, that extra speed to get from sideline to sideline. I think he's somebody that you need to keep an eye on and might be worth starting. The only question I have for him is, can he get off the blocks when it comes to the run game? We see that he's got that speed, he's got that vision, but can he handle those big linemen, those guards that are pulling, and can he get off of those blocks to make the tackle? That's the only outstanding question I have about D. Winters. Other than that, he may be somebody to keep an eye out for. You know, you can't pay everybody year in, year out, but he looks like he's developing to be a game changer at the linebacker position next to Fred Warner. And so I'm thrilled to see what the 49ers do over this next week, how they change their game plan, and what they do next week. We know that they have 3 preseason games. This next one should be against the Saints. And then week 3 in the preseason will be against the Raiders. So that's all for today on Ninerology. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.